Artillery has been a core element of Russia's military strategy for centuries, playing a crucial role in its operations during World War II and throughout its more recent military engagements. This reliance on heavy artillery as a primary force multiplier has long been a hallmark of Russian military doctrine, and in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine, this strategy has appeared to give Russia a significant edge. However, recent developments suggest that this advantage is rapidly diminishing. A combination of resource constraints, Ukrainian innovation, and shifting warfare tactics is leading to a significant decline in the effectiveness of Russian artillery. Today, we'll take a closer look at the factors contributing to this shift and how it could alter the course of the war. At the outset of the war in Ukraine, Russia's artillery dominance was undeniable. The Russian military relied heavily on its artillery pieces to launch large-scale bombardments across the battlefield, aiming to break Ukrainian lines through sheer firepower. This approach was not without its faults, but the scale of Russia's artillery arsenal initially seemed to make up for any tactical limitations. Russian artillery could fire thousands of shells per day, giving them a critical advantage in terms of long-range bombardment. However, the sustained nature of the war has exposed significant vulnerabilities in this strategy. A key issue that has emerged is the increasing difficulty Russia is facing in maintaining its artillery units. Reports have surfaced indicating that the Russian military is cannibalizing older, outdated artillery systems, stripping parts and barrels from decommissioned units in order to keep active pieces in service. This is not a sign of strategic ingenuity, but rather a desperate attempt to cope with a serious shortage of modern artillery pieces. As the conflict drags on, Russia's inability to replace or repair its artillery equipment has become a glaring weakness. The strain on Russian artillery resources is compounded by Ukraine's increasing ability to neutralize these threats before they can do substantial damage. Over the course of the war, Ukraine has developed a range of countermeasures to counter Russian artillery fire. Using advanced drone technology, Ukrainian forces have been able to target Russian artillery positions with impressive precision. These drones not only provide real-time intelligence, but also enable Ukrainian forces to launch highly effective counter-battery operations, destroying Russian artillery pieces and supply depots. Ukraine's artillery strategy has evolved significantly throughout the conflict. In particular, the use of long-range missile systems, such as HIMARS, has played a pivotal role in neutralizing Russian artillery by striking deep behind enemy lines. These systems are capable of targeting artillery positions from far beyond the range of conventional Russian weapons, denying them the ability to operate freely and forcing Russia to rethink its artillery strategy. In addition to these technological advancements, Ukraine's ability to conduct deep strikes has had another critical effect: the depletion of Russian artillery ammunition. The targeted destruction of ammunition depots, combined with the disruption of Russian supply lines, has led to a significant reduction in the amount of artillery shells available to Russian forces. Reports suggest that Ukraine's deep strikes have cut Russian artillery fire by as much as half, further hindering Russia's ability to sustain prolonged artillery barrages. With their ammunition supply dwindling and their artillery systems becoming increasingly obsolete, Russia is left in a precarious position on the battlefield. One of the most significant blows to Russian artillery superiority has been Ukraine's ability to destroy large numbers of Russian artillery pieces in single engagements. Just recently, Ukrainian forces destroyed a record 122 Russian artillery units in a single day. This is not an isolated incident, but rather part of a broader trend in which Ukrainian forces have increasingly disrupted Russian artillery operations. This level of destruction is unprecedented in modern warfare and highlights just how much the battlefield dynamics are shifting in favor of Ukraine. For Russia, the combination of artillery system shortages, limited ammunition supplies, and effective Ukrainian countermeasures has meant that its ability to rely on artillery as the primary force multiplier is fading. The logistical and strategic challenges Russia faces in replenishing and maintaining its artillery units have left them vulnerable to Ukrainian counterattacks, forcing Russian commanders to reconsider their tactics. This marks a significant shift in the nature of the war, as Russia's heavy reliance on artillery is no longer yielding the same results it once did. As the war continues, the Russian military will have to adapt or face further erosion of its artillery advantage. The lack of modern equipment, coupled with the technological edge that Ukraine holds in terms of precision strikes and countermeasures, makes it increasingly difficult for Russia to maintain its dominant position in artillery warfare. If these trends continue, Russia's artillery will no longer be the formidable force it once was, and the balance of power on the front lines could shift dramatically. The implications of this shift are far-reaching. Artillery has been central to Russia's operational strategy, and its loss of this advantage forces a fundamental rethinking of tactics. Russia may be forced to rely more heavily on other military capabilities, such as infantry or mechanized units, in an attempt to make up for the artillery shortfall. However, this would also expose them to new vulnerabilities, as they are not as well equipped in these areas when compared to Ukraine's growing strength in anti-tank warfare and precision strikes. Looking ahead, it's clear that the battlefield in Ukraine is evolving rapidly. As both sides adapt to new technologies and tactics, the once strong Russian artillery advantage is slipping away. Ukraine's counter-battery operations, the growing reliance on drones, and successful long-range strikes have all played a critical role in disrupting Russian artillery operations. If these trends continue, Russia's military strategy will need to evolve to keep pace with the changing dynamics of the conflict. The decline in Russian artillery effectiveness highlights a broader shift in modern warfare, where technological innovation and precision strikes are increasingly taking precedence over sheer firepower. As the war drags on, the ability to adapt to these changes will determine the ultimate victor. For now, it seems that Russia's artillery advantage is crumbling, and the question remains, how will Russia adapt to this loss of firepower? And can it find a way to regain its footing on the battlefield?